What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Boleros. Sam here with the newlywed, Mr. Gab Lim. Say hello, Mr.
Yeah.
Newlywed.
Thank you for the speech, my good friend. Thank you for not exposing me to our guests. Di,
so,
di mo ako nilaglag.
uy, mabait ako. Good boy ako dun sa speech ko. Ginawa akong maayos. um, if you guys don't know, sorry, apologies for not doing any episodes over the weekend, even though we had such a crazy UAAP weekend. I think it's safe to say that. But as I mentioned last week, Gab just got married last Saturday. I was there at his wedding, and you notice Maui is still not with us. He's still in Japan enjoying his vacation. So shout out to Maui. I'm sure he's listening to us. Dapat lang manood ka ng episode na to, Maui. But we will be talking about Maui later on. Sneak preview, sneak peek of
Before
what
we
will
move
be
on,
discussing.
I do want to address something. So as Sam said, we all three of us were gone in the weekend. I got married. Sam was there preparing a speech. Ayaw niya uminom, and he was updating me regarding the Ateneo NU game and all the UAAP games during my wedding. That's how crazy we are about UAAP basketball. Kahit nakasal ko, gusto ko pa rin malaman yung score. And I was tempted
Napapagalitan na nga ako eh.
actually,
Napapagalitan na ako eh.
and I was actually tempted to put the game into the big screen yung that we had in our reception. But anyway, I did want to address something. I did see some comments na where we don't reply to all the comments, that we're biased. We only reply to comments that are favorable to us. Okay, if you've been following us for a long time, you know that's not true. First of all three of us are pretty busy. We all have day jobs. We all have families. Hindi kami nakatutok sa YouTube on 24/7. So, and it was my wedding. I wasn't on YouTube. Sam wasn't on YouTube. Maui's on vacation. We don't Hindi kami nakatutok sa comments. I mean, we try to react. We read all of them. Okay, guys? We read all of your comments. We can't compose replies for every single one of your comments. So apologies for that. I mean, we try to think of our replies din naman. Pinag-iisipan namin kung paano yung makipag-discuss sa inyong lahat and how to properly engage, as not to offend anyone. We try to be civil naman. So give us a bit of a break. Pare, hindi naman kami lagi nakatutok sa channel namin and lagi nakatutok sa basketball. Okay, so guys, yun lang.
Pasensya na.
You give us a break. Oh, pasensya na. Uh, okay. Yung binabasa namin lahat, promise. Binabasa namin lahat.
Okay. So, pasensya na, but we're back. We're back here. Kahit na dalawa lang kami, we want to do an episode to talk about that, the weekend games. So, we're returning a segment that we tried out recently. You probably saw it in the title already. We're doing another round of Swak, Saks, o Sablay. So, this is inspired by the Ringers mismatch. So if you guys watch or listen to that podcast, they do have a similar segment. So we sort of this is inspired from that. So I will say a statement, and then Gab will say swak if he 100% agrees to it. Sucks if it might be true, 50-50, pwedeng totoo, pwedeng hindi. Or sablay. That's completely not true. You're crazy, Sam, for saying that. Okay? So let's get started. We have 5 questions today. Let's start with one of the marquee games yesterday or over the weekend. Salle versus UP. So let's start with Janelle Porcadas is the key to DLSU winning the championship. He was amazing yesterday. By the way, he played I think only
Amazing.
like 16 minutes or something, but very efficient. Contributed a lot to LaSalle. Definitely, they wouldn't have won without him. So, Gab, Swak, Sax, or Sablay? Policarpio is the key to DLSU winning the championship this season.
All right, I'm gonna say Sax for this question. More leading to Swak, but Sax lang. Yung Sax lang. Yesterday, I think, showed the promise and the potential that Janelle Porcadas has, and that Lasallians and us UAAP fans were waiting for when we saw him in the preseason, when we saw him working out for LaSalle, when LaSalle announced that they were recruiting this guy to play for them. This is the promise. This is the potential, and he showed it yesterday against UP. Of all teams, no, he played really well. He's a guy. What? How tall is he, Sam? Like 6'5", 6'6"?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, 6'5", 6'6".
6'5", 6'6", can shoot it, can defend multiple positions, can drive to the basket, can protect the rim. He showed that yesterday. I think he had how many? I think he had 2 blocks. One, he stared down. Who was the guy he stared? He stared down someone.
Si
I think it was
ba yung at the end of the game, or
yeah. Or be honest, he just stared them down. It was just so. We were all really high on this guy. I mean, you could look back at our previous episodes. We expected this guy to be a key part of the rotation for LaSalle. He was starting in the early part of the preseason with KQ coming off the bench. And yesterday against UP, he showed the bag. And he gave the bag, especially to one particular player, Francis Lopez. He kind of exposed Francis Lopez yesterday. I was very surprised at how smart he played when he was on the court. He had a couple of drives on Francis Lopez, just baiting him into into going up for shot fakes. He hit a couple of threes. He was all over the floor on the defensive end. And when I say he played Francis Lopez off the floor. If you watch that game, Francis Lopez gave up a lot. I mean, a lot. A couple of drives, a 3-point shot to Janelle Porcadas. And I think it showed how a little bit of undisciplined that Francis Lopez has on defense. He has the highlight plays. I think yesterday somehow, how many LeBron-like blocks did he have? Like 2 or 3?
I think in the second quarter alone.
Yeah, and he had one also in the second half when I think it was VJ David who went up for a layup and Francis Lopez came out of nowhere to block his shot. So a lot of highlight reel plays. But if you really watch the game, there are also a ton of defensive mistakes on Francis Lopez's part, and Janelle Porcadas exposed that. He bites a lot on shot fakes. Maybe because he always gets those shot blocks. He jumps high. He's able to get those highlight reel plays, but sometimes sobrang attached siya eh. And doesn't have that discipline yet to know when it's a shot fake to stay down. And the reason why I'm Sax, well, I don't think he's a key, but I think he's an X factor. Janelle Porcadas. If he can give that extra offense off the bench, especially when KQ is out of the game, I think LaSalle can survive. And that's the reason they survived also the minutes without KQ. In the third quarter, if you remember the first game against UP, they scored 3 points in the third quarter. They didn't know who to go to. When KQ was in foul trouble, they had no offense to speak of in the third quarter in the first round. But in third quarter yesterday, I think they won the third quarter, surprisingly, against UP. And Janelle Porcadas had a lot to do with that.
I think UP won the third cup. UP won the third. Pero close.
UP won the third,
2015.
But LaSalle survived the third. Okay.
Survived the third.
Gotta correct myself.
Kept 7-point lead, I think.
Yep. And even in the fourth, when it was Chico Briones put in the game, while yes, Chico Briones had a couple of good baskets on the offensive end, he was preyed on the defensive end, by UP's forwards, by LaSalle's forwards, namely KQ and Janelle Porcadas. uh, I think Chichico Briones, you're not meant to play power forward. I think you're more of a guard, a big guard or a wing. And yesterday showed it. Uh, yeah, but Jonah Policarpo is an X factor, as I said. If you can get a good 15 minutes out of him, get what 8 to 10 points a game in the remaining games into the final four and into the finals, I think LaSalle will be in good position not just to make the final four, but even to get a twice to beat advantage. With that win yesterday against UP, that number one slot and even the number two slot are now up for grabs between three teams. Diba? We were talking about it. Now there's a race for number two between NU and LaSalle. But with UP losing, those top three slots are now wide open. They're wide open now. One loss by UP can bring them down all the way to number three. So it's got it in Maui's words. No, just to quote our dear friend Maui, the UAAP is now crazier. There's now a three-team race for that number one slot, and if I were LaSalle, I would do everything in my power to get that twice to beat advantage, because it's gonna be hard to beat either UP or NU twice, and getting that twice to beat advantage is gonna be big. It's gonna be big. So yeah, that's my answer for this question. Sacks. Janelle Porcadas is not. I don't think he's the key. I still think it's gonna be KQ and Evanelli to be the really the key cogs for LaSalle. But an X factor, definitely. Their ceiling is higher if he can play that way, the way he played yesterday. Sammy.
I agree with everything you said, Gab, but I'm gonna have to go with Swak. I 100% agree. He is a key to LaSalle winning this championship. And um you sort of touched on it for me. Si Jonel Policarpio, he's an X factor, di ba? And yung maganda kay Policarpio is yung versatility niya. He can play multiple positions, he can guard multiple positions. So for me, yung key thing about Policarpio is consistency. We always talk about LaSalle being one of the most inconsistent teams. If you can tell me that Jonel Policarpio will be a consistent contributor or a positive will have a consistently have a positive impact on both ends of the floor. The way he played yesterday, kahit sabi mo Gab, he can consistently score 8 points lang, but like grab, a ton of rebounds. He actually had 5 assists yesterday, Gab. Second only to Nele. So grab a ton of rebounds, make plays, just have that intensity on both ends of the floor. I think he is a ceiling raiser, as you mentioned. So for me, he can, if he can be consistent, he will be a big key to their championship. Kasi it's something that LaSalle has struggled with. They can only, the thing is they compensate for it with their depth, diba? So they do have a lot of players. We've in the early, at the start of the season, we were praising si Joaquin Manuel. Other players have stepped up. Si Raven Cortez did not have a good game yesterday, or he barely played yesterday because Mike Phillips was also dominant. Policarpio was playing well. But he had his moments. We just talked about him as one of our ballers, I think, last week. What we're looking for is like a consistent guy. Somebody that can contribute or be a consistent positive impact for LaSalle other than KQ and Nele and the big three, KQ, Nele, Mike Phillips. Even the big three actually are not always consistent. So if they can rely on another guy like Jonel Policarpio, 6'5", 6'6" guy wing that can do multiple things, it will be easier for the road to the championship will be easier for them. Go Gab.
That's another point that makes Jonel Policarpio very intriguing as an X factor. He can play beside KQ and Mike
Yes.
Phillips. Diba?
He can tama yung versatility talaga no? He can play beside KQ and Mike Phillips, or ang ganda din talaga yung like if you remember KQ was in foul trouble, you sit down KQ, pasok mo si Policarpio, you can sort of like he's like a KQ light in a way. Na obviously KQ is MVP level, di ba? But yung yung options ni Coach Topex na, "Oy, foul trouble si KQ. I'll sit him down. I'll bring in Janelle Policarpio." Ang saya na ang dami niyang options that he can use or he can play around with this team. Unlike, let's say, other teams na, we always talk about FEU na ma-foul trouble lang si Ona, medyo yari ka na sa big men. Eh, diba?
Yep. And another thing that makes Policarpio yung pretty valuable, he kind of limits the minutes for the players who should not be playing more. Hashtag Joaquin Manuel. I think that's one of the things that LaSalle fans and our subscribers who are LaSalle fans have been kind of saying, that the lesser minutes that Coach Topex has given to guys like Joaquin Manuel has actually benefited them, because more minutes have now been funneled into guys like Janelle Porcadas and Macalalag, who's actually playing decently in the past couple of games for LaSalle. So anytime you get those role players to contribute is a good sign. And Coach Topek has so far, since the loss to UP in the first round, they have been looking really, really good. They've been looking really, really good. And Janelle Policarpio is a part of that. Okay. Next question, Sam.
Next question. Let's move on to the other side of that game yesterday. UP should continue to rest their stars even if they lose the twice to beat advantage. Swak, Saks, or Sablay. So, ipahinga mo na yung stars mo, okay lang. Kahit mawala yung twice to beat advantage, kayang-kaya natin yan.
This is a big, big Sablay. And I'm not saying this because
okay.
yung Sablay, diba? Diba yun yung sa UP, right?
Yeah, Sablay.
Yung sa graduation. Yeah, but this is a Sablay. If the stars include someone like Malik Juf, I don't think UP is going to... wait, first of all, mahirap na walang twice to beat advantage. Even if you're as strong as UP, beating the likes of NU and LaSalle twice is a big mountain to climb. Okay? It's a big mountain to climb. There's no way, and they didn't even no way. It's going to be really tough for them to get into the finals by beating those two teams twice. Next, that game yesterday exposed how I wouldn't say bad, but let's say ill-equipped they are to deal with bigs, given their current bigs lineup. Out of the three big centers they played, I think Pablo was the most effective, maybe offensively, but Alter was getting eaten alive by Mike Phillips. Seven Gagate in his 1 minute on the floor, gave up a rebound, gave up a foul, and was never put back in. So if you go with that front line again, it is good to get them experience, but if you go with that front line again for the rest of the second round, you may drop how many games? They have 4 games remaining. You could drop 2 or 3 of those games. And that, I don't think they have that imposing big man who can anchor their defense as much as Malik Diouf does. And the problem is with UP, as I said in earlier episodes, they play in-your-face defense. They gamble a lot on defense because they have Malik Diouf to cover their asses when they get blown by. Malik Diouf is back there. Without Malik Diouf, you saw it yesterday. They were content to go right at Sean Alter. Even though Sean Alter had a couple of good blocks yesterday, the LaSalle players were looking to attack Alter, Pablo, and Gagate anytime. Well, yeah, Francis Lopez came out of nowhere to reject some shots yesterday to add some rim protection. I don't think that's enough for you to play that to play the signature UP defense all throughout. They're gonna get exposed by playing that defense. They're gonna give up a lot of easy baskets, as LaSalle showed yesterday. And if they don't give up easy baskets at the rim. They give up wide open threes, as also LaSalle showed yesterday. Escondor had a ton of open threes and made what, 3 of them.
Yeah, 3 of 6.
Joaquin Manuel had a lot of open threes, just didn't make them. Uh, Evanele had open
Grabe.
threes. Mark Nonoy made some threes also. This was a result of a lot of dribble penetration by KQ and Evanele and all the other wings of LaSalle and breaking down that defense to collapse. You don't see that in if Malik Diouf is there. You, if you go at Malik Diouf, you know that he will cover the ground necessary for in order for the defense you not to collapse. So no, I don't think they can afford to rest their stars. For JD, I think they can afford to rest JD because they have Jajan Felicilda, but no one can do what Malik Diouf does. Sammy.
Okay, good point. I think this is a sucks. So I would say it's kind of true.
What?
But
Talaga?
you
Sucks? No way!
sucks. Pero let me explain. Tama ka, Gab. I think it would be very difficult for them to rest Malik Diouf for a very long for the rest of the season, for example. Someone and by the way, sorry, just going back to something that we talked about in a previous episode. Sabi natin previously, may injure na lahat, wag lang si Malik Diouf. And then the next game, na injure, hindi nga naglaro si Malik Diouf. So, I think binati natin, jinx natin. So,
Binati
sorry to
natin.
the UP community. But I still agree with that. UP really needs Malik Diouf. And you explained why and how crucial he is. And we saw the impact of Malik Diouf when he's not on the floor for UP yesterday, especially against a team like LaSalle, which is one of the bigger teams, di ba? But guys like JD, tama ka. I think they can afford to be cautious with JD Kagulangan because they have so many guards that can step up for JD. Ever since JD has sat down the Ateneo game and the game yesterday, Alarcon and Janjan Felicilda have been very good or have been very decent actually. So that's why I'm sacks here. I think if you have other guys that are injured that you need to rest, a guy like JD, you really need him in the Final Four and in the championship. He's one of the most clutch players of UP other than CJ Cancino na grabe nagwala din kahapon. But Malik Diouf, man, if I just can't help but to think if Malik Diouf was there yesterday, would the results have been different? And I think
Oh,
Gab, you
they would
made
have been different.
they would
They
have
would have
actually
been
like that's not a question. That's not a question. It would have been different. No, the results might have been different. Um, One thing to note though, Gab, when we were talking about losing the ties to beat, I think you're right. In a season like this, the twice to beat is even more important because yung top three teams mo, UP, NU, LaSalle, very difficult to beat them 2 straight games. The reason why I'm also sucks is because I feel like UP has a relatively easier schedule versus NU and LaSalle. They're going up. The only like really big game for UP is UP versus NU, and that one, the UP can go up and you can go down. So if everyone needs to play for that game, and that's the last game of UP. So for me, I'd rather rest my guys now and prepare them for the last game against NU. But the games before that, FUE, FEU, UST. Bro, upo mo na lahat sa UST. Upo mo na lahat sa UST right before the NU game. Magpahinga na kayo. Palaro mo na sila Pablo. Laro mo na lahat. Ay pahinga mo na lahat.
But that's
So,
only UST. UE and FEU can surprise.
UE and FU can surprise, yes. But FEU, they don't have that many big men. So, it's not as big of a problem versus, let's say, Alasal. Diba? So, that's, for me, yun lang. Relatively, compared to, so NU has FEU, UST, Adamson. Adamson is number 4. So, just by ranking, Adamson is better over UE and FEU. And then UP, obviously. And then LaSalle has Adamson, UE, FEU, ADMU. So they don't have a top two team. They've played against NU and UP already, but they also don't have UST anymore, sila Sal. So medyo sure win na yun for those three, for UP and NU. I would say. Sorry to the UST community, by the way. So yun. So for me, Sax. I'm Sax. I think they really need Malik back soon, especially for that NU game. But for JD Kagulangan, the rest of the guards, if JD needs to rest, just rest him for the rest of the season because they need him 100% healthy in the Final Four and maybe in the NU game actually.
Another reason why I don't think they should sit Malik Diouf. It's gonna be bad for the Francis Lopez to go pro movement because the more Malik Diouf sits, the more exposed Francis Lopez is. And let me just, before any of our UP followers come at me for this, the reason why Francis Lopez, has looked good in the previous games with Malik Diouf is because he can afford to gamble. As what I said, he can afford to make mistakes on the perimeter or on defense because Malik Diouf is there to clean to clean up his mistakes. And actually, to an extent, a lot of the gambles that the UP guards make are cleaned up yung may Malik Diouf. And if scouts see the deficiencies in Francis Lopez's game, I think his goal to go pro would kind of be hindered a little bit. I mean, it's fun to watch Francis Lopez. He has a ton of highlight plays. He has a ton of skill. But there's a certain level of discipline which I think he has to learn. And if UP will survive, if they really do sit Malik Diouf, they have to learn a little bit more discipline, especially from Francis Lopez, because he's the one he's actually a menace on defense if you think about it, because he's so athletic. He can go from the free throw line and block a shot from the basket just with a few strides. That's how freakishly athletic he is, especially for the UAAP. But if you do make those gambles, you do get exposed a lot also, especially if you don't have that anchor on defense. So I still think Malik Diouf has to play, especially Malik Diouf. JD okay lang, Jan is there, but Malik Diouf definitely has to play. Okay.
And you know what? JD hasn't been playing really well, no? JD hasn't been playing really well nung naglalaro siya. So I think maybe factor din yung injury niya. So I think just rest him as much as he can. Next question. We've been talking about the top teams. Let's talk about yung rambulan na nangyayari dun sa medyo bottom team. So right now, Adamson is in 4th place, but trying to get into 4th place are UE, FEU, and Ateneo. And UE, another come from behind win for UE, another crazy overtime game this season. Pag titingnan mo, pag-iisipin mo, Gab, di ba? Ateneo lost to, FEU beat Ateneo twice, but UE beat FEU twice. So even though and then Adamson is in number 4, but coming from that game, FEU-UE game, UE, ang question is, or the statement is, UE will surely make it to the Final Four, or UE will make it to the Final Four. Swak, Sax, o Sablay?
For this question, I'm going Sax, more leaning to Sablay. I don't want to completely say 100% they will not make it to the Final Four, but it Sax leading to Sablay because looking at their schedule, they play UP, Salle, and NU. UP, Salle, and I think it's Ateneo. So
Ateneo.
And then Adamson. So those are teams either tied with them or ahead of them in the standing. They play UP on Wednesday, who just came off a loss. I highly doubt they're pulling that one off against a UP team that just came off a loss. Against
Unless
LaSalle,
wala si Dio.
Unless wala si
We don't know
Diouf.
yet. Baka may
But
chance.
then again, this UP team is stacked. They have a ton of good guards. You never know. And they have a chip on their shoulder coming off a loss from LaSalle. So I highly doubt that they'll pull that one off against UP. In the weekend, they face LaSalle, who has been looking really good and has no doubt been one of the hottest teams in the UAAP. Maybe second to NU. Maybe second to NU, but they've been the hottest team so far in the second round. I have a lot of doubts of UE pulling it off against LaSalle. Even with the history of UE with pulling off upsets against LaSalle, I I still have my doubts of them you pulling this one off against a LaSalle team that has looked pretty good. Okay, so out of those teams who are fighting for that last spot in the Final Four, UE I think has a toughest schedule. Uh, Ateneo, despite having a quote unquote easier schedule, has not looked really good so far. And I think we'll talk about them more later. But with the easier schedule upcoming, maybe you feel more optimistic that they can pull off some wins, maybe get that last Final Four slot. And for Adamson, they have the edge. They have a one-game advantage. Again, they have an easier sked as well. Uh, if you count battling Ateneo easier, but they've faced UP already. They're facing LaSalle on Wednesday. Again, with that one game advantage, I think they have a better chance to make it over UE. So I am going with Sax. Also, I am not saying that surely hindi sila mapasok because they can pull off upsets. UE can, especially. But the schedule is not in their favor. Sammy.
I agree. It's a sucks for me. I think out of respect to Adamson, they do have the one game advantage. So it's Adamson and then UE and Ateneo tied for the fifth spot basically. So I think obviously Adamson has the edge, but uh definitely UE has a fighting chance. So sucks for me, and they've been they were very impressive yesterday. So another come from behind win. Ray Remogat exploded again for 34 points.
He was so good, man. Giving the FEU guards the bag. Oh my goodness. May tips eh. Siguro sasabi niya, hindi
Yeah,
nyo tinanggap sa seniors program nyo. I'll pour down
exactly.
34 points on you. Itong si Joric
Yes.
Bautista, pinili nyo. I'm cooking that
Hindi niyo
guy.
ako pinili ha. Kinat niyo ako ha. Let me show you what I've got. Chip on his shoulder. Yeah, but I've also been very impressed with the rest of the UE team. No? So it's not just a Ray Remogat show. Yesterday, well, Abdul Sawat got hot, but I wanted to give props to Jack Cruz Dumont. I think he's been playing very well the past few games. It doesn't maybe everything he does doesn't show up on the box score, but he does usually defend like some of the best players of the team. He's a do it all forward. So I think he's like one of the assist leaders of the team then consistently, and then defends the best players of the team. Can score when needed. So this UE team has been very impressive. So I think definitely they do have a chance of making it to the Final Four. But it has to be sucks for me. By the way, yesterday, Momoe did not have a good game. No? So ever since we talked about him as an MVP, Gab, bumaba na yung performance ni Momoe.
Medyo na-expose na kasi si Momo Way eh. And he tries to do too much, I think. But you can see he has the skill, to take it off the dribble, but he's not that well equipped yet to make those kind of plays. Again, we've said this before. He tries to do too much. Eh. I think he would be very well served to stick to the dunker spot plays. Get it in the dunker spot, or maybe some short post ups. Maybe a drop step here and there, but taking it off the dribble against a team like FEU, who has a ton of guards who know how to reach and get steals. It's not a recipe for success, Precious Momaway. I'm sorry. Leave it to Ray Rimoga, to Cruz Dumont, and to Hilbuena, to Alcantara, to make those off the dribble plays. Please don't do that. That's maybe in the future when you develop a tighter handle, more disciplined footwork, maybe you can make those plays. He does have that potential, but now it just leads to a lot of turnovers, a lot of botched plays, and I think you can find better options than Precious Momoway trying to go one-on-one against a defender from the perimeter. It's not the best way to go about your offense.
Okay. By the way, since we're talking about the middle teams, shout out lang din to FEU. Despite the loss, I think they made it they surprisingly made it a game in the end. So it went to overtime. They were down 7. They were down 7 with like a few seconds left na. Wala silang matira. And Joric Bautista almost pulled a Reggie Miller. He scored like 6 points in 9 seconds or something like that. And they lost by 1 point. They almost came back and Joric Bautista almost pulled the Reggie Miller. I would have wanted to see that, but wala na, naubusan na talaga ng oras. So, shout out to FEU.
And they got Cholo Ananuevo back.
Yes. So, actually, that's worth mentioning, Gab. So, they got Cholo Ananuevo back. Wala pa rin ata si ano though. Sino yung isang guard nila? I forget. But they're missing...
Royce Alforque.
Alforque, correct. They're missing a guard. Pero I think, Gab, good point ka kanina when it comes to the schedule. No? All those teams except for Ateneo, they're going to face two of the top 3 teams. That's what makes their schedule more difficult. Si Ateneo, I think, is only going to face La Salle sa ending. But UPNU, they're done with. Okay, next question. Okay, speaking of...
Wait. Before we move on, I just want to talk about giving a shout out to FEU. I did appreciate FEU rolling out an alternate jersey. Yes, I think those black jerseys looked great. We should give that. UAAP, require all UAAP teams to have an alternate jersey. Come on, let's mix things up. We can't just go with the dark and light scheme all the time. Mix things up. There's so many other colors that you can go with. More creativity on the floor. Come on. Step up the jersey game.
I think UP used to have a black jersey then. So pero maganda na yung FEU black jerseys. Was hoping the other teams would have some, but that's a good point, Cap. Okay, next question. NU beat Ateneo over the weekend, and the star of the night, Humamoy, the rookie Humamoy. So, statement is, Humamoy's breakout is more important for NU than Steve Nash Enriquez's return. Swak, Sax, or Sablay. More important for NU success, NU now. Gab.
I'm a Sablay on this one, Sam. I don't, as much as I'm a fan of Reinhard Humamoy, and you could look back to our preseason, I was very high on this guy, calling him a possible favorite for Rookie of the Year, calling him even better than Jared Bahay. Ooh, hot take merchant. Oh shit. Okay, so
pinanood mo yung diba, yung juniors, yung finals game ng juniors?
Yep, I watched him last year in the finals, or was it in the semis? I think it was semis. They didn't make the finals, diba?
Semis.
Evers Adamson. Yeah, and it was in the semis. I thought he looked pretty good, and yesterday he got hot. Let's just say it right there. He got hot, and wow, when you see the potential in this guy as a future star in this league. But there's no way it's more important that he breaks out over the return of Steve Nash Enriquez. Steve Nash, despite I think Humamoy is a better player skill-wise than Steve Nash Enriquez is. But Steve Nash is one of the leaders of this team. He's one of the engines that runs the offense yung for this NU team. He's the more experienced point guard. So I think if NU is going to make it all the way to the finals and win the championship, they have to get Steve Nash Enriquez back and healthy. It's fortunate that he's only out for a month and he'll be able to make it if NU makes the final four or and even makes the finals, he'll be there. But more important than Humamoy breaking out, definitely, it's Steve Nash. He doesn't score a lot, but he play makes for his team. He's a pesky defender. He knows the offense. He's a very vocal leader there on the team. So I think he's more important yung that he comes back. But this is not to discount how important it is also to get Reinhard Umamoy to play more and play better. It's been needless to say, it's been a very underwhelming season for Reinhard Umamoy. I was very high on him.
Yeah.
He hasn't gotten a lot of playing time. He was injured a couple of games ago, but yesterday showed that there's potential in this kid. It wasn't just his 3-point shooting, and that was the main part of the breakout, diba Sam? As an Ateneo fan, it was pretty hurtful, sakit to watch him hit all those shots, and he was pretty hot talaga, especially in the in the second and third quarters. But you also see the playmaking, the defending. Though it wasn't just 3-point shots, he was able to get to the basket. He was able to dish out assists. So you see the potential in this guy. What I think it's important to get him more minutes because he's a guy that could give that extra spark off the bench for NU. And we all know that NU struggles at times with offense. That is their quote unquote Achilles heel, at times. Their defense has always been fantastic. It's on the offensive end where they tend to stall a lot to have droughts in games. They can't score in certain periods of games, and I think Humawe can help with that. He's a very skilled offensive player, and him getting that confidence and getting more reps and playing time will help NU in their future games and even in the next couple of years. But in this season, Steve Nash Enriquez has to make it back. Sam.
100% agree. This is a UP Sablay for me. If NU wants to win the championship, if NU wants to succeed, they need Steve Nash Enriquez back. He is the heart and soul of this team. You mentioned it. He's a very vocal leader. May kita mo lalo na if they're playing well or even when they're struggling. Etong si Steve Nash, gigil to. He will talk to his teammates. He will cheer them up whether he's playing or not. He is also sort of the vet of the team. So very crucial to have Steve Nash back, especially if they hope to be successful in the Final Four and to win the championship. But Humamoy's breakout, I think, will bode well for his confidence moving forward. And I think yung injury ni Steve Nash is sort of like a silver lining. Now, Coach Jeff Napa is sort of forced to play Humamoy more minutes, similar to what happened against Ateneo. And as he plays more minutes, he'll get more experience, he'll get more playing time, he'll be more confident in playing at the seniors level because we know how much of a badass this guy is in the juniors division. But letting him get more reps in the seniors division or this season is definitely very important. I think you mentioned it, Gab. We don't expect, at least for this season, we don't expect Humamoy to be 21 to score like 21 points per game every game. He is a rookie, but what they need from him is that scoring off the bench, instant offense off the bench. For this season, they badly need Steve Nash Enriquez. But maybe long term, Humamoy might be more important than Steve Nash, given I think skills wise, he is more skilled or talented than Steve Nash. But for this season, they really need Steve Nash to return if they want to compete against the likes of UP, which is like super deep when it comes to their guards, and LaSalle, you know. So agree, this is a Sablay for me. Okay. We're down. We're down to our last question. This is a bonus question. And since we don't have Mr. Maui Yap in the flesh, we will be reacting to a tweet that he posted over the weekend. So let me. So for the Spotify listeners, I'm sharing the tweet of Maui over the weekend. That got a lot of shares and likes or comments from some of the followers. So sabi ni Maui,
Hot take
reading it
merchant
for
pala tong si
the
Maui up eh.
hot take ni Maui for the Spotify listeners. Maui up. It's turning into a disastrous season for Ateneo. Maybe time to play the likes of Gamber, Celis, Nieto, and give them valuable experience for season 87. So, Gab, is this Swak, Sax, or Sablay?
Maui, grabe, hanggang ngayon, nandito ko pa rin sa podcast. Habang nagbabakasyon ka.
Shout out to Maui
But,
listening to
shout out
this.
to
Hindi
Maui.
niya to alam, by the way,
Yep.
guys.
For me, it sucks. For me, it sucks. Sucks because, one, you playing the likes of Gamber, Celis, and Nieto, and maybe Tuwanyo as well. It's kind of similar to tanking. So you're kind of trying to throw away games, but maybe not putting so much effort into winning if you're gonna play those guys because they haven't been in the rotation the whole season. So if you're a rookie and you're playing your first minutes, a lot of mistakes are gonna happen. A lot of inexperience comes into play, and as you said earlier, Sam, they have a very friendly schedule. Let's just put it that way. They have a very friendly schedule. They've already played UP or NU, so those top two teams are out of the way. So out of the three teams that are fighting for that last Final Four slot, they have the quote unquote easiest schedule among the three. And I think you'd want to make the Final Four if you were Ateneo. Just to salvage any hope of pride for this season, I think you'd want to make the Final Four. And I think it's when Coach Stab's interest also to win. I mean, he's always been about winning. Coach Stab, despite preaching development and patience, has also preached that they will do what's necessary to win. And I don't think playing rookies who have not had that much action, big minutes, or even a significant rotation minutes is a way to go to win the next 4 games for Ateneo. So that's the Sax. So that's the Sax part that's going more to Sablay. The Sax part going more to Swak is I do think they need to change up their rotation a bit. For one,
okay.
Yes, I do think they need to change up their rotation a bit. One, as much as Sean Kiteves is pretty important to this team on the defensive end, and he is very important. He's their best perimeter defender, and when he's out of the game, the defense kind of breaks down a bit. No, however, as exposed in the UP game, and I actually forgot to say this, but I was thinking this already in our post game recap of the UP Ateneo's second round game. UP kind of exposed Sean Kiteves on the defensive end. They were more than willing to let him shoot from the outside. We were there, Sab.
They were leaving
him. Yep.
And at first, nung una, tumitira si Sean. But after missing a couple of shots,
he made his first.
He couldn't.
He made his first.
Yeah,
he was one of 6.
Missing a couple of shots, he stopped. Like, he wouldn't even try. Kahit wide open siya, he would he would just like pass it off or look for someone to get the ball. Like, he knew that that wasn't a good shot. So it sort of broke his confidence din sa 3-point shot niya. But go ahead, Gab.
Exactly. And as I was saying to one of our subscribers who commented, and I had this conversation with him, I was surprised that actually that UP was the first team to do this. And I've been saying this. We have been saying this since the preseason. Playing Sean Keteve is going to be a problem on offense because he can't shoot. And teams will soon realize that you can leave Sean Keteves open, and that's actually a good shot for you if you're the defense to have Sean Keteves taking threes. It's actually been amazing to me that it's taken so many games later that UP finally had the balls to say, okay, Sean Keteves, we don't care about your shooting. Go ahead, shoot.
Take 10
We're gonna
shots.
defend. Yeah, take all the shots you want. We're gonna guard the other guys, and it's very similar to how the Lakers defended Draymond Green and Kevon Looney in the playoffs last year. If you watch the NBA playoffs, they left them wide open and just focused on the other shooters, on Steph and Clay. And this was the same thing that UP did. And I won't be surprised if other teams do the same. And you kind of did it uh, in the game on Saturday. And also, Sean Keteves, talk about that confidence, Sam. There are times when he doesn't even look to shoot. Diba? He doesn't even look to score. And I want to point out one play
Exactly.
from the game on Saturday when Ateneo was down 63-61. Their first chance to win the game was Sean Keteves had an open lane to the basket and he didn't even look to score. Didn't even look to drive. He just looked to hand it off. I think it was to Balungay or to Jared Brown in that last minute play. And I thought he had an open lane just to go. And that's, I think, a part of the confidence thing. He doesn't look to shoot anymore, and he knows that he's not that efficient of a shooter. And that's where I think the rotation changes have to come. As much as Sean Ketev is very important on defense, you have to account for his liability on offense. And all these three guys, Gamber, Celis, and Nieto, actually play Sean Ketev's position. And I think it would do Ateneo well to give more minutes to these three guys. Especially I think LeBron Nieto, he's kind of the guy who's been backing up Sean Keteves in that slot for a few minutes
And he's
in
a good
every
defender.
game.
He's a decent
He's
defender.
a good he's a decent defender. And he's a pretty good shooter too. He's shown the ability to shoot the basketball. So I think if you funnel more minutes to a guy like Nieto and spell Sean Keteves some minutes, well, I still think he should be a big part of the rotation. I think you have to lessen the Sean Keteves minutes because nga medyo hirap ang offense when he's the guy you're expected to be the outlet for playmakers like Kuhn and Espinosa or Jared Brown. It's gonna be very difficult. Gamber and Celis, Maui, I'm sorry, but I think it's a bit too much of a gamble to let these two guys play when they haven't seen any sort of significant playing time for Ateneo. But yeah, they still have a shot. Ateneo still has a shot. I want them to fight for that Final Four slot. I think they can make it. Of course, that's the Atenean speaking in me, but I think they can make it. But they do have to make some changes. It can't be the same thing. And well, actually, just thinking about it now, if you want to play Gamber over Espinosa, I would not be opposed to that idea.
Oh. Oh.
Because you know how much I am against the playing of Espinosa. He's just gets taken advantage of a lot on defense, and he's not that spectacular of an offensive player as well. Sammy.
But he does give his 100% best. Like, kudos to his effort. Yun na lang sasabihin ko. But, looking at the Street by Maui app, to be fair, Gab, hindi ko inisip yung Swak side that you were talking about. And I think you made a good point there. No? Maybe tweaks in the rotation could help Ateneo. And also, Imagine if you can give Lebron Nieto, talking about like a guy that needs to get more experience and get more confidence, if you can give Lebron Nieto more playing time or more confidence, that would really help Ateneo also in their postseason run in case they do want to make a Final Four appearance. He can be very crucial for the team. But with that said, I have to say, Maui up. I'm very disappointed with this team. With this tweet, this is 100% sablay for me. First of all, si Maui ba talaga nag-tweet nito? Kasi si Maui yung laging hayo on Ateneo, laging in tab with trust, kaya yan, laban. So I can't believe this is coming from Maui's account na Mr. Positive, 'di ba? Or Mr. Kaya yan for Ateneo.
To be fair to Maui, Sam, he goes both ways. Sometimes very positive, sometimes he's very negative on Ateneo. So I think that this is the negative side to Maui.
Pwede lumalabas eh, no? But and second, I think Gab mentioned it. Maui, this is for pride. Ayaw mo ba yun? I mean, it's not like Ateneo is out of the Final Four, no? A lot of people were asking me during your wedding, Gab, nung tinatanong nila, oh, Sam, ano score? Sabi ko, talo Ateneo. Wala nang chance, no? Wala na. Parang meron pa naman, kaya pa naman, pero medyo mahirap, ganyan. So, we're not talking about UST here. So, again, sorry to UST. By the way, UST Ateneo on Wednesday. If matalo Ateneo doon, okay, goodbye na lang. But
Ateneo,
anyway,
sige, Maui yung pwede mo
let's
i-retweet
play
yan.
everyone. Yeah, Maui. I will retweet it, Maui. But it's not like UST na wala nang chance of making it to the Final Four. No? So Ateneo still has a good chance of making it to the Final Four, especially since they haven't even played against Adamson yet. So for me, knowing Coach Tab, you mentioned it already, Gab, I don't think he would allow this or he would do this, even consider doing this. So it has to be a Sablay for me. Fight till the
But
end for
Sam,
Ateneo. Unless,
there's one thing. Coach Tab has been known also to tweak rotations even late into the season. You know, he's not a guy. He's not that stubborn of a guy na I'm gonna play my rotation the whole way until the final. I think a lot of Athenians, both young and old, have been frustrated also with Coach Tab. Then why are you playing Gio? Why are you playing Espinosa a ton of minutes? Ganon. I think Coach Tab has his reasons, and he's not a stubborn guy to just play a rotation without having a reason behind it. You know, he's changed rotations before. Just look at last season. He completely changed his rotation in the second round and late into the second round.
Yeah.
I think if he sees a reason to, he will make changes. Go ahead, Sam. You were saying.
Yeah. I mean, no, if I guess to your point, no, if Gamber, Celis, or Nieto prove to Coach Tab na he has to play them or it's worth playing them, then definitely he would play them, I think. But yung concept of like sort of tanking this season for experience for season 87, I don't think like they would even ever consider that. So
yeah,
sorry,
it's not
Maui,
Coach
sablay
Tab's
for
style.
me. I love you, Maui. I miss you. Dahil wala ka dito, napag-uusapan ka. Joke lang, Maui. Enjoy your trip and weekend. So, that's it for today's episode. Gab, any last words before we go?
Nope. But we will try our best to cover all the Wednesday games. We'll try to think of a creative segment. No, Sam, we'll try to think of something. We're not sure if Maui's gonna be able to join. So it's gonna be you and I again.
Okay, that's it. If you haven't yet, don't forget, like, subscribe to the page. If you want to listen to us on Spotify, we also have a Spotify. We do upload all our episodes on Spotify, so you can just search for us there. We'll see you again after Wednesday. That's it. Bye-bye. See you.